Night, Chapter 9. The Time Grows Short. Since Jesus would be born in Israel, at first only the Israelites would know about him, but God would want them to tell others, who in turn would tell even more people, until the whole world had heard about Jesus. It'd be easier if many people spoke the same language. They had to be able to travel to distant places too, so the furthest city and the countries beyond the sea could hear. For that they needed good roads and strong ships. Still, it was not time. Hundreds of years went by. That might seem to us like a long time to wait. What takes a year on earth is to God only the blinking of an eye. Finally, a city called Rome was built. The armies of Rome conquered all the countries around, including Israel. To make sure all the conquered people obeyed them, the Romans built roads for their armies. These stone paths were bigger and better than any roads the people had ever seen. The Romans also built hundreds of fast, sturdy ships and chased pirates off the seas. One of the countries Rome conquered was Greece. The language of Greece sounded so beautiful that many people throughout the Roman Empire began to speak it. And God, listening, knew that Greek would be a perfect language for spreading the news of his rescue. God had already said his son would be born in Israel, and through the prophet Micah, God revealed the exact place where the Savior would be born. But you, Bethlehem, though you are little, out of you shall come forth to me, but one to be ruler in Israel. Even though the citizens of Israel were finally back in their homelands, they were being ruled by the wicked emperors of Rome. Now God was saying they would have their very own king once again. This was wonderful news, and he'd be the best ruler they could possibly have, for he'd be the one chosen by God. God was ready to show into whose family this new ruler would be born. Though God was his father, he would need an earthly mother, who would be just right as a mother for God's son. God chose a pure, simple girl named Mary, a girl who loved God with all her heart, mind, body, and soul. Mary looked up one day, startled. There before her stood a tall angel. Seeing her expression, the angel said kindly, "Peace to you who are lovingly chosen. The Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women. You will conceive in your womb and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Jesus. He will be great. He will be called the Son of the Highest. He will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there will be no end." So there's how they portrayed Mary. Mary was amazed. She could hardly speak. But she'd always loved God. She tried not only to obey him, but also to please him in everything. So she bowed low, saying to the angel, "I am the Lord's servant. May it be to me as you have said." Mary was engaged to a kind, strong man named Joseph. He could trace his relatives back to the great King David. Joseph was only a poor carpenter in Nazareth, but he married Mary and cared for her tenderly as the time drew near for her baby to be born. Nazareth, where Joseph and Mary lived, was almost 100 miles from Bethlehem, a long, long distance in those days. But the prophet Micah had predicted that the Savior would be born in Bethlehem. How could this come true? The emperor in Rome at that time was Caesar Augustus, meaning Caesar the Splendid. One day, Caesar decided to count all the people in his huge empire. That way he would know how much tax money he could collect from them, to keep track of all the different groups of people. Caesar decided people should go back to the town where they were born and pay taxes there. Well, when Caesar Augustus did something, it became law. He didn't know it was God who gave him the idea. All over the Roman world, people had to return to their hometowns to pay their taxes. It was hard for some to do this, but when Caesar said go, people went. And that's how Joseph and Mary ended up in Bethlehem. God sure went through a heap of trouble, Zeb said. "More than I'd have done. More than any of us would have done," agreed the woman. Picture of them traveling. All right, we'll continue tomorrow.